So we can, I guess, I'll give a quick intro. Iskra and Marcelo, well, you all know who they are, but they, regarding the residency as well, I think they were one of the first people that I spoke to when initially we started thinking about doing this program. So, they've been aware of what we wanted to build for quite some time. So I'm very happy to have them here. I've met them through the Hip at Noon community, which I'm super grateful for. And yeah, I'll let you both introduce yourself. And I guess the best way to do this is people unmute and ask the questions. If you cannot speak, just type in the chat and I can read it out as well. But yeah, just giving everybody I guess a chance to ask questions. Cool. Iskra and Marcelo, you guys.
Thank you. Just Miguel, we have some problems hearing you. I don't know if you listen as well or not, or it's our connection.
I can hear you okay. Maybe it's mine.
I think now I hear you better. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Cool.
So hi everyone. My name is Iskra, and I am a generative artist, or maybe just a combination of things. I think I come from data visualization, and I've been working there for the last 10 years. And then first trading data, then trying to visualize or tell stories about the algorithm itself behind any process, and finally 3 years ago I decided to just quit my job because I realized I had many questions to answer, and in my case in the organization I wasn't able to go there. So I quit my job and I decided to just try to apply all this knowledge in something more creative as generative. And there I am. I'm trying to do things with this technology, and now I'm working full time on art, basically in Hik at Noon, and a few more things there, and yeah, this is my short intro.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marcelo Soria, and also my background is a bit mixed. I am a telecommunications engineer by training. I've been working for quite some time in the technology industry, applied to different sectors. And also somehow at some point I noticed that it wasn't for me anymore, at least the big corporate world where I was working at. And the truth is that I always had some kind of drive inside me to do things in a let's say in a creative way. I mean, I never dared to say that I was going to make art or that I was making art, but I always tried to apply some kind of creative approach to whatever I was doing, which sometimes ended up in pretty bizarre results, probably not very appropriate for the corporate setting. And also 2 years ago, I my job, and we tried to start actually a small studio where we were trying to mix digital strategy with art and culture, which then the pandemic happened, and certain plans kind of stalled for quite a while. And now for for a year more or less, I've been devoting myself only to creating art, picking up on certain ideas, on certain little experiments that I had been doing over the years. And now I am a full-time also artist, or at least trying to be. And well, I should also say that I'm thrilled to be here, and some of you guys here in this talk are my heroes. So this is quite interesting.
Yeah, I think we can say both that we'd like to do this like a conversation, actually, because I think we have many things to know and learn from all of you. So let's do that.
What do you want? I mean, up to you, to be honest. I think how you want to do it. If you want everybody to introduce themselves, or if you want to like start the conversation with a few questions.
I think as you want. If you have questions, we can start with it, and then just share everyone.
Awesome. Okay. Well, team, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
So I think about this generative art concept, yes. And I think what do you consider a generative art? Like all software is writing in a programming language, so the software itself is a generative art. What is created is generated, yes. So what the best way you define the generative concept?
Good question. Actually, we've been discussing what generative art was for us for some time, and I don't know if there is exactly a universal definition, but to me, it is somehow creating a system, or at least the way that I think about it is when you create generative art, you don't just create a piece, you don't just create. I mean, you cannot completely say that you made it all. You cannot completely say that, oh, the machine is doing it. Like some of my friends tell me, oh, but do you actually do something? It's the computer doing it. And I'm like, no, that's not the concept. The thing to me is when you create a system where the artist, let's say, creates all the sets of rules and all the sets of semantics in that system, and then has certain degrees of freedom where the collaboration with the machine takes place, and the machine then can evaluate a huge number of different possibilities very quickly, possibilities that the artist could never probably explore in their entire life. And hence the collaboration is about trying out these rules, trying out these ideas you have, and then seeing the space of possibilities that is generated by this system that you created. And then there is a feedback loop when you see what the algorithm produced or what the system produced, and I'm talking in terms of system, machine, and algorithms because it is what I do. But then you could probably do generative art with a ball pen and a dice, for example. If you throw the dice, if it's an odd number, I'll go to the left. If it's just having a set of rules and some tools, let's say, already creates a generative system. In our case, we both are using currently algorithms coded by us mostly. And then you can also, of course, expand the scope of generative art to having an adversarial, generative adversarial network, a GAN, neural networks doing that thing where probably the rules of the system are a little bit more obscure because it's layers and layers of neurons taking decisions where okay, you have some decisions on the architecture and on the training set, but then you don't really know what's going on inside. That's also very interesting, by the way, because then you start seeing possibilities that are completely out of the scope of what you had in mind. So all those to me are generative systems. Like I said, a system where you try to set some perimeter, you try to set some rules, you try to have an idea of what you want to achieve, and then you iterate and you collaborate with your own system to get somewhere. And it's a beautiful journey of discovery to me, mostly.
Yeah, I agree with Marcelo, but also I like to think about this in a kind of philosophical way. And it's like for me, we have some big questions, why everything in nature is done in the way it's done, and why everything is like so perfect, and why this kind of equilibrium in nature happens. Like, for example, if I have to find a color palette, I can be looking for 1 week and nothing works, and then you go in nature and you see a field and everything is like perfect. So this perfection, I think, brings us many questions. And I think generative art, thinking like with the big picture, is like a great tool to be after our intuition. You know, when I code something, I think, well, I want to go in this direction. But then once I run the system do something unexpected and very complex. And then I see this result and I try to understand that and I keep the loop, you know, until I get something. So for me, generative art is like the tool we have now, very powerful, but it's very similar to other technological advances that happened years ago. I like to think of the photo camera, for example, and the relation with the eye. And like the camera doesn't replace the eye. But if you see something, you can see what you can see as a human, but then the camera can zoom in and can see something very interesting, but the human did the photo, you know? So I think this kind of technological advances or makes us realize more things about our context. So I think generative art is just another way to discover things and be surprised by the result, something like that. I think this is quite confusing, but it's the way I think.
Thank you. Thank you. Great
I
answer.
love,
Thank you.
yeah, I love that answer too. Real cool.
So thank you. If you want, we can just go through the questions. I think Stefano Contieri asked something. So you both come from different things. Okay, so I'll go with this. Yeah, for sure. I think my background influenced a lot to me on my work. Actually, I'm an economist, but I wanted to be an architect. And then I ended up studying journalism, but then I quit. And, you know, everything was kind of a big mess at that time. And then I decided to use my, let's say, mathematical knowledge from economics and my interest for design at that time. And I brought all together and I decided to start learning to code and yeah, to get more into data visualization. And that was my main activity. And then, you know, at the time that I mentioned before, I decided to just get more free and use this to do something like for my own. Now I feel like all this process of learning how to visualize and how to try to understand algorithms. I was very lucky of working with a great scientific team in my former company. And then I learned a lot about systems, about algorithms, about artificial intelligence. And I was like the outlier in the team because I'm not a scientist, but I learned a lot. And I think now actually this brought me to do some strategic work and some vision in terms of where we have to go as a society with all this change in technology. So now I have all this influence, I think, on my own work because I'm still trying to get in this direction in some way through art, but trying to answer these questions and to think about where are we going with this. So I think there is a definitely huge influence from this now in my journey.
Yeah, in my case, probably, of course, there is an influence from my background in my current art practice. But I would also say, like I kind of mentioned earlier, that there was also an influence of my desire to be creative in my background. I wanted to be originally I wanted to be an architect, but somehow I ended up being a telecommunications engineer. Go figure. But I always tried to keep, let's say, a presence or some activities that kept me in the creative realm. Like I don't know, I was doing photography. I also make music and other things. And somehow everything kind of got together when I started realizing that maybe I have to give it a try to being an artist. When we were working in this realm of the digital strategy, one of the things that I liked to do always was to try and project what were the consequences of advanced technology in society into the future, and really trying to think how things would change. I kind of saw the value of trying to mix culture in the mix, to put culture in that mix, and to put maybe something else in that mix. My interest started to be trying to understand how to expand the total range of possibilities that any given system could yield. So when I was working in innovation in financial services, for example, we were thinking, okay, so what else could a bank be? And if a bank changed shape, what else would it be doing? And what kind of services could it bring to society, and so on? And how is society going to change so that we need to respond to that? And kind of that way of thinking is something that I also brought into my practice now. And precisely maybe that's also one of the things that I find very interesting about generative art, and it is the way that you architect your system, the rules that you set, and the different ideas that you try to convey shape totally the space of outputs that you can create, and then changing something very little in your rules or in your let's say ideas broadens completely the scope, changes or broadens the scope of your work. So that is an idea that came kind of from my background in working in strategy, but it also originally then also came from this other creative side. So I'd say it's a cycle, it's a loop. It's somehow the fact that I'm making art now does not mean that I'm not anything else anymore. And when I was doing strategy, it didn't mean that I was not an artist kind of at the same time. So that is also a certain influence in my case.
Thanks, Stefan. And let's see.
I can read out some of the questions if you want.
Okay.
So HyperIcon says, we are big fans of your work. We base ours in generative shaders and AI generated images. So how you do the curation of the materials that get finally published. Sometimes we get overwhelmed with possibilities.
Well, the truth is, the curation of the materials is some area where me at least, I don't have a definite answer on how do I do it. I have to say there is a part of intuition, which is also what kind of drove me into art in the first place. To me, one of the things that I try to create when I do any type of artistic work is having an output that will create an emotion in the viewer or in the experiencer, much as I am always moved by the artist, by the art and the artists that I like. So, and this is something that I cannot express in words. I mean, I have tried to write some articles on my website about that, but I always find that words are too limited to express what one feels when one is in front of a work of art, or when one experiences a work of art that really one likes. And then the thing is that the curation, selecting pieces and so on, in my case, is totally instinctive, based on that emotion, based on the feelings that arise from the piece. If the piece does not move me in any particular way, then okay, it might be technically interesting, it might be even visually interesting, but if I don't get any feeling from it, then I feel that I'm missing something quite clearly. So so one issue is to me if I want to generate a system that creates a very vast scope of output, how can I translate my feelings into an automated system that would help me sort through all those outputs, right? Because I mean, I can, so far, when I curate things because I'm gonna publish any piece on Hic et Nunc or on Twitter or anything else, I resort to this emotional thing. But then trying to understand how to decompose that emotional state that I reach when I see the work that I like, how to decompose that into, again, a set of rules so that I could automate part of the system, so that I could maybe create something more interesting at scale, is something that I really don't know very well how to do. And it is also one of the things that I like to at least reflect upon, the fact that I mean, for one, I believe that we cannot yet build any system, any automated system that can really help in a meaningful way with that, because there are no machines so far. There are no machines so far with anything that resemble emotions. I wrote an article on that, and I would need to, I don't know, share an emotion with a machine to rely on the capability of the machine to really curate something. I could probably write an algorithm that would curate the pieces based on certain characteristics that I see that are common to those that I like, but that wouldn't necessarily translate to emotion. So researching a little bit more on the topic of a machine that may have emotion, or what is an emotion for a machine, or how can I represent an emotion in such a way that the machine would understand it so that I could automate that, is a very interesting topic to me.
Yeah, I think regarding the curation, it comes to me immediately, like the process of training some images with AI, for example. I did that, but I think I don't consider myself really good at that, because I don't have actually now the means to do it in a great way. So it's not really my thing. But when I do generative art through algorithms, sometimes I just write the code and try to get somewhere. But usually my main process is find an interesting algorithm and literally break it, and then once I break it, I start saying things there, and sometimes I just run until I see something interesting, and then once I'm there, I start to work on that strange shape. Usually I'm looking for organic shapes, but I like this process of something from like a big bomb, and then once everything explodes, I start to work on that until, I don't know, until I get there is something beautiful, and then I get more and more into the thing until I get some shape that I'm okay with that. And that actually 2 weeks ago I was reading a book that was written by Rothko, and I didn't know, but he was the painter, and he was so interested in education and how can you teach kids to be creative. And I think he thought that it was very important for the development of the kid. And he mentioned that the right process to teach a kid, if you're an art teacher, is just to let the kid in the first years be completely free and do whatever the kid wants, and then the kid itself will ask you for more for a huge structure, and to know how to paint. And now I'm drawing with everything I find, but then I need you to tell me which is the great pen, which is the great paper, and so on. And I think we used to approach generative art in the other way. Like I tell the machine what to do, and then I just wait to see what it happens, right? But I think this approach of just letting the machine be crazy, if like the machine is the kid, and then once everything explodes, you start to build something over this mess, So yeah, this is like my approach for curation, just publishing a very destroyed result, something like that. Okay, let's see.
If anybody wants to unmute as well, feel free to do so.
Thank you, Felipe.
I was going to type, but I think I'll just talk because it's gonna be easier. But I would like to know from you, like, what do you think about this performative relationship of the capturing moment of moving generative art? Because a while ago I was in this thread with a bunch of people. I don't even remember exactly who it was on Twitter, and they were talking basically about this element of changing the parameters while you are capturing a moving piece. Therefore, you are altering uh, the what the machine is technically doing by your own maybe aesthetic vision or the way that you want to experiment in that very moment. What do you think are like possible future outputs of more, let's say, creative and accessible ways of making generative art for a more wider audience that doesn't really relate to code and not specifically want to, let's say, write the code first and then wait to see what the machine will do. If I don't know if I'm like being clear with what I'm like saying, because, but yeah, I think maybe that, what do you think is about these elements of more human interaction with the code itself or with the visuality of the code? Let's say, for example, for me, like, as personal experience with generative art, I've never really studied code in my life. Like, I've only probably done like really basic HTML or something like that. But I've approached I've approached it from a very like visual experience with Touch Designer and like finalizing on video and things like that. And I think I would just love to see more of this possibilities of like dealing with generative art in a wider way. But I also loved the answer that you were talking about on the first question with Gabriel, that a lot of things can be um, generative art, and I think that like brought me to a whole like new vision of it.
Well, in my opinion, in the end, yeah, like with this last point that you mentioned, generative art does not need to be code, and yeah, well, right now there is an explosion of interest. Indeed, maybe I don't know if it's a global explosion, at least in our little world. But yeah, there is like a lot of interest in this type of making art with computers, let's say, and within that generative art. For sure, I think there's going to be more tools that don't require you to know how to code, but they will, in some way or another. I think all these tools will require you, and I'm doubting whether to say should actually require you some understanding of something complex, because in the end, whichever tools you use, be it code, a visual programming language, a visual composer of a scene, or something very simple, whatever that is, it's a tool, much like you use brush and paint. And you kind of need to understand a little bit the possibilities of those tools that you have in your hands to be able to express something. Um, um, well, not always when I code, I'm trying to express something. I must also say that. I mean, I sometimes just code things to see which cool things come out of the code. I mean, I may have an idea, but for sure, like I said earlier, it's a discovery journey. But I do believe that if you have a tool that hides all the complexity from the user, and then the user is using the tool but doesn't really understand what his actions on the tool, what are the impact of their actions on the tool to the end result, then I think you may get very interesting results, but probably you will never fully use that you will not explore so deeply the space of possibilities that lies behind that tool. So when you get down to code, you have like everything at your fingertips, but of course it takes longer to get to a result, but you have full power. And then as you add layers of abstraction, you get earlier to a result, but then you have less power. And this is a universal rule that you could apply to basically everything in your life. If you know how things work and you can do it yourself, then you can do basically everything. You can build everything. But then if you have to go through the different assumptions that someone else made when they built that tool, then those assumptions will be also in your end result in one way or another, right? I'm not saying that it's necessarily bad at all. I'm only saying that yes, I do see that there will be more easier to use tools, but these will have these little caveats. At least while we don't have higher order artificial intelligences, around, because maybe with a very advanced AI tool that you can interface with at, I don't know, a thought level or an emotional level or something like that, then you can probably shape things even much more powerfully than with code. But I cannot think of a way to express some of the things that I want to put in my pieces, or at least that I end up putting in my pieces without code. That is definitely like that.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think in generative art we should understand programming or the tech behind whatever you do as a tool and not the goal. You know, for example, I think of I see some kind of similarities between this hype and the hype I lived with data visualization. For example, in the beginning, I have to say I'm not a coder and I'm not good at coding. Since the beginning, when I wanted to get there, everything had to be coded because there was no software to do anything. So I had to learn D3, which was a library on JavaScript. And I'm not a coder in JavaScript, but I really knew what I wanted to draw. So I just used to go to find how to do that. But like not I do that because I know how to code. No, I know how to draw, for example, and I just need to know how to draw it on the computer. So I know I need to know how to code it, right? And then after a few years, started to appear a lot of softwares that actually did a lot of the stuff. So there was not needed so much anymore to code in data visualization. But then all the people that at that time were kind of creative in the field, they felt like so constrained of using those softwares because, you know, using a software sometimes constrains you. So they started creating new things far from technology. For example, if you know Giorgia Lupi, the work, they did a project with how's the name, Stephanie Posavic, I think, or Posavic, and they got kind of famous because they did a project of sending postcards. One was in the UK and the other one in New York. So they sent postcards with some kind of data, but drawn by hand, and it was like a manifesto of you don't have to code to do a great visualization. So people, when you know at the beginning happened like this explosion of yeah, you need to code, and the same happens now. So we need to code, we need to break things, and then after a few, I know with NFTs everything happens so fast. So maybe it's not in terms of years, but maybe in terms of months. I'm sure that there will be other ways to reach some result, and it will be perfectly valid. And yeah, and also when you asked that, it came to me another idea that why technology is just a tool. I thought about, for example, in painting, in the history of art, the color has been always so important. And I think of, for example, the invention of new colors and new pigments are definitely part of the history of the art. And those inventions were done by artists that were very interested in chemistry, for example, and they had to know how to mix colors to obtain new things. And does mean that you have to know chemistry to be an artist? No, not at all. But at some point in history, you need to go a step forward and bring something to the state, and then you can keep going with your art. So maybe now we are trying to find new pigments. I don't know. Yeah, I know. This is a philosophy.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a short comment on what Iskra was saying now. Going back to her quote of Mark Rothko from earlier on, indeed, maybe these tools that would make it easier, more approachable to enter into generative art are letting the kid play with absolutely everything without the kid having to bother of how things work. But maybe once you say, oh, this generative thing is for me, but I want to go further, then is the moment of, oh, I need to learn chemistry to make a new color, because now I know that I'm interested in this. So maybe now that I'm interested in generative art, and maybe now I need to code, to learn to code a little bit more, so I can go further in what I want to do without the limitations of the tools that I'm using.
Yes, interesting points of view. Thank you for the answers very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, so actually our first, it was not our first work, the one we collaborated, but it was in the beginning of
The second, yeah.
the second.
It was, my second mint, but yeah, go ahead.
And actually, I didn't mint before
You
anything.
didn't mint
Yeah.
because-
So in terms of NFTs, yeah, we did a collaboration. Well, we've been working together for several years in different fields, but now in art, when we started that, actually we did a piece together as my first minted piece. Well, I think Marcelo minted it, but it was because there was not a collaborative contract at that time. And it was for a friend, a gift, a very special friend, and it was her birthday. So we decided to do a kind of Frankenstein work, I think, because it was like, put your style and I'll put mine. And I think we kind of have a different style. So it was kind of hard to mix both. But yeah, it became something interesting or kind of naive, but beautiful for us and for our friend. And that was our first collaboration. But yeah, I would say we collaborate usually in terms of, we work together and we are exploring the space together, and yeah, for me this is a kind of under basis collaboration all the time.
Yeah, actually, probably the collaboration we do mostly on a daily basis is critique. So we don't make a piece together all that often. I mean, we did that, like Iskra said, to prepare this present for this friend. But then what we do collaborate a lot is we critique each other's work constantly. And what do you think of this, or how do you feel where should I bring this to, and so on? So yeah, that's kind of a daily thing. And yeah, I'm looking for the link, Stefan, to send you the piece. It's the second piece I minted. Just give me a second because I never remember the object number.
And also I have to mention that I think we have another collaboration with music.
Oh, yeah.
Because
that's true.
Yeah, I have some big project which I'm not ready to target now, but it's there. And I just sometimes I work on it, and I really needed to record video trying to explain the project, and I needed music. So sometimes Marcelo writes music, and he played it on the piano. So I think this was another collaboration.
Yeah, that was also interesting because she had an idea of what she wanted, but since she cannot really making music is not her main thing. Then it's very interesting, the process of having someone translate you an idea of, I want music of this kind of style for this video, and then trying to iterate through, okay, here's the first proposal. I tried to understand the mood. I tried to understand what you had to tell me, and I bring this piece to you, and then there is a critique again. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Maybe a little bit less, I don't know, drama here or whatever. And then refining the piece. It's probably different creating a musical piece for a video, because then she's in charge of the video and I'm in charge of the music, than creating a collaboration within the same discipline. And this is something that, like she said, we did earlier only on this piece that I posted there, the link. And I really don't know how would that work to create, let's say, a more complex work where you would try to I don't know, fit two different styles into the same piece, because maybe the narratives are different, or the visual languages are different, or something like that. But it's very interesting nonetheless. In the case of having to translate a vision that she had to create music, and probably it applies to certain collaborations as well. I always think of a phrase that a friend of ours told us. He is a production director in the film industry, and he told us that an anecdote of the film, the director of production, the production director of the movie Blade Runner 2034. I mean, the second part of Blade Runner. I never remember the number. He said that the production director got the brief from the director, and the brief was the movie has to be red and brutal, and that was all. And from those two words, he had to build the whole movie feel, the whole movie, the whole ambience, the whole everything. And I always thought that was a very challenging thing to do. Of course, at a very much smaller scale, it's kind of the same thing. She said, I want a piece that sounds epic, that has this kind of Bulgarian vibe to it, but at the same time, blah, blah, blah. And then you need to try and produce something with that, which is also, in certain way, kind of sometimes your own creative process when you're doing a collaboration with yourself. Because you have an idea, and then what you produce is typically not what you had in mind, and then you have to establish a dialogue with yourself. Sometimes it's easier to talk to someone else than to talk to yourself.
Okay, thank you, Marcelo. We're gonna through the questions. I think we have many. I don't know how much time we have, so let's go there. So if we conceive the works from the beginning to be an NFT, now, yes, in my case, as I mentioned, I have different projects and interests. I also plot works, and I would like to work more with clay, for example, and try to get more into sculpture. But now I'm not in that because I literally don't have time to do that. So I am focusing more on digital, and I produce, I think, a lot of works. I produce a lot because I'm all the time with that. So not everything ends up being an NFT because maybe I don't like it, or now I'm focusing more on create whole collections. Like I started in Hiket Nung with collections, then I started to just main separate things, but now I want to get back to collections. So a lot of things are just tries to do something, but it's not exactly what I want to do. So I just share to people, but I'm not gonna mint those works. But everything it's now, in my case, thought to be potentially be an NFT because it's a digital work.
Yeah, in my case, more or less the same thing. I mean, my work is digital at the moment. So since it's digital, it is potentially an NFT as well. But let's say I'm not thinking, oh, I'm going to make an NFT like this, because in the end, well, I haven't produced any piece so far that takes advantage of the fact that the piece is an NFT, meaning I'm not reading any data from the smart contract or anything like that. I am preparing some project that will take advantage of all those things. But so I would say that would be my first project that is thought to be an NFT, because it couldn't be it couldn't exist otherwise, let's say. or at least not the full thing, maybe only parts of it. But so far, in my case, I don't know. I just have an idea. I try to create something interesting, and then some of it ends up being an NFT. Some of it doesn't.
Okay. The other one from Miguel. No. This one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Has your approach changed? Yeah. In my case, I think, Miguel, I'm answering your question. It's not that changed through my journey in NFTs, but just kind of happened in the same time. Because when I started to create my own project, it was more about, well, it's a long story, but in short, I really want to try to use some kind of algorithms of to understand. I was born in Bulgaria, but I live since all my life here in Spain. So I'm this kind of kid that grew up in a different country, and you always have something from this you know uh, context. So I for my whole life I try to understand where I'm closer to which country. It's a very vague idea, but I have it. So I decided that maybe computers can answer this question with different algorithms from deep learning, or just something to find distance between things, right? And I decided to do this and express it through something physical, because I needed to, just, there is no sense for that. Just I wanted to create something physical. So that's why I went to clay. And my whole process with generative started with one very clear mission. I wanted to draw these designs to a physical piece, and that's why I bought my AxiDraw, and I started to think how to use which inks and which glaze to draw on the clay, and then when I was in the process, I realized how difficult it was actually, and how biased I was in the process. So I stopped that, and I decided just to get deeper in the digital and just be free, and don't constrain with I have to do that. So I just went to the abstract, and there is where I am now. So I learned that I think things have to be done in a more slow way, and I think I have time enough in my whole life to go there. So I learned that, and to take time to explore. I think this is my major learning. In this kind of quick time pass that we live in the NFTs, everything goes so fast. So I learned that I need to stop.
Yeah, I would probably share kind of the same thoughts, learnings from a different standpoint and from a different background. But probably what I have changed most in this time is not really that much either, but most is to allow myself to pause and reflect on the project that I want to mint. Let's say on I don't know. Initially, anyway, since I decided to call myself an artist not so long ago, the previous things that I was in were never published. So all the time this year, at the beginning of this year, to me it was about I want to put my art out there. I want to improve it. I think that one of the ways to improve it is to test it against the crudest reality possible, and typically the crudest reality possible is the market, because okay, maybe you think this is very cool and you have a lot of likes on Instagram, but then you say but then you tell people, oh, okay, how much would you pay for that? And then people turn their backs and go away. So kind of my initial focus was I want to create good work and I want to put it out there, and I want to see how it fares, and I want to learn from that. I want to see if I am I don't know up to the challenge, kind of. But then probably over time, over these few months, this thinking has matured a little bit more into thinking, well, it's not so much about the market. It's rather about, I mean, you're not challenged by the market. You're basically challenged by yourself. Of course, the market also creates some boundary conditions if you want to live off your art. I mean, if you want if you have another job and that job pays the bills and then you make art, then that's okay. But then if you really have to pay the bills with your art, then there is that constraint. You cannot totally turn the back on the market. But still, I think that the market also recognizes, and when I say market, I say NFT because an NFT is inherently in a market. I mean, natively in a market. This is also quite interesting. If you mean something, it's already in the market. But it's more about what you really want to express, or how you really want to show yourself, or the quality of the work that you want to create. It's more about that than let's say having to be constantly there. One of the other things that I learned is that you burn out quickly if you are 24 hours a day promoting your work, creating your work, posting your work, and so on. The beauties of the NFT market that has to do that you are in direct control of everything is also its curse. You have to be in control of everything unless there's other roles around you helping you, and that's something that we need to improve yet, I guess, as as a collective, markets and so on.
And then pop art by Beba. Yes. Nice typo. But very best.
Yeah, so about your question, Pop Art by Beba, the best tools to develop their coding skills. Well, the truth is, even if you are not interested in generative art, for example, the whole processing suite of things, processing, P5JS or processing Python or anything, those were originally developed with the idea of being a learning environment. It was very much focused towards creativity, because creativity is what we all have inside, and it kind of tickles the parts of our brains that are still in their childhood. I mean, we all love creating something. I mean, at least we all here in this conversation, we all love creating something. And if learning to code means that you're learning to create something that has visual output, then you have a very quick feedback loop. So you learn very quickly. So that was the whole point, the whole philosophy basically behind that. So I would say that probably if you cannot code, this is a nice place to start. Then thinking about whether this is an element that could be integrated in your work, I would just say try and play with it, because if you play with it with no goal in mind, I mean, not with no goal in mind, but at least if you play with it with no restriction, with no hard expectation, then it's easier to learn. It's easier, just to play, which is the definition is, the right word is play. And once you enjoy playing with it, and once you have fun with it, you will probably find ways of integrating that into your art, of evolving into your art with code somehow. I don't know. And if it doesn't happen, well, at least you had fun on the way.
And also, I'm sure there there already are many platforms, or I don't know how to, for example, Clip. What is Clip? It's a library. Clip. How to say? I don't know.
Yeah, Clip is a model, is a neural model that tries to convert text to image using neural networks.
Yeah, but I mean, there is no. Well, you have to know just to understand what's going on there, but you don't really need to go to use some kind of tools that now are available to do some very powerful things. For example, train GANs, or have some input from something you write or whatever. So sometimes you don't really need to code. You just have to really understand what's going on there and try and be good by searching for the tool that best fits for your work. So, for example, if you do, you mentioned comics, I'm sure you can try these kind of models that they are already done, and you kind of say you simply put your word there and just start seeing the output of the machine, and then you can apply your knowledge from that, the one that you are very good at, to polish this work and get some better results. So I think it's the same like the thing that I mentioned with the data visualization. I'm sure there will be appearing more and more different softwares and tools and programs to not to stop being so necessary to know how to code. So let's see.
Apparently the next question appointed is this one from Vitaly. So most examples of generative art I've seen are abstract. Could you give some examples of artists or projects that work figuratively in the field of generative art?
Well, the first it comes to my mind is Gambrud is the name. So he's a Swedish artist, I think, or
Dutch.
Dutch. I'm sorry. And he, he also do some kind of abstract experiments, but he trained faces from. I knew him from the beginning by training faces from older paintings, and then trying to convert these images to some photography feeling. And now he's doing for me a fascinating work by training models with different inputs, like for example kids fairy tale books and Asian aesthetics, or I don't know, it's so crazy what he does, and I think it's very figurative. And yeah, I'll totally highlight his work and know who more.
Yeah, in general, I would say that probably artists working with GANs, with generative adversarial networks, those type of neural networks. There you can find some people doing figurative generative art, because in the end they are training their networks to create one specific class of output images. So I want to create fantasy landscapes, or I want to create like Iskra mentioned, old portraits, or I want to create these types of things. Like I mentioned at the beginning, maybe some people are not thinking about that type of work as generative art because it's not created directly with your code. I mean, you're using libraries and training a system. It's not deterministic in a very hard way. I mean, the type of work that we do, for example, with our own algorithms, of course, it's not fully deterministic because it has a lot of randoms scattered around. But still, if I'm using lines and triangles and squares and I don't know whatever shapes I'm using, it would be pretty weird that the machine outputted a perfect portrait of a woman. I mean, that day I will be scared. And also at the same time, I will be in awe. But anyway, the thing is that these systems where you train a system are, to me, they are also generative. You train the machine to do something, and then the machine will come up with whatever it wants. You don't set rules. You only train the system. You only try to teach it, let's say. So probably those are the best examples I can think of. If people building things with code that are figurative.
Well, Monoloide, of course. He's also very abstract, but he also tries always to to get closer to some natural shapes and fields. And now he's doing, I think, an amazing work with some kind of flowers in the field and playing with distance in the horizon. And
I've seen also sometimes certain work of like creating architectural drawings, for example, in a generative fashion. I mean, there are things that you can think of course. But yeah, it is true that a lot of the generative artworks around are abstract.
So Stefan, no, I think it's for you. Not sure.
Which one?
Stefan Contiero. Not sure if we.
No, sorry. If we can start with Vitaly, if that's okay.
But I think we already answered the Vitaly question.
Okay.
Probably I don't know if we answered it, but we tried.
We tried to.
Okay. Cool.
So
yeah. So then the next one after that.
yeah, how happened you?
How did I decide to call myself an artist?
This is an amazing question.
Yeah, it is a very good question, and it was very hard, and I still have sometimes. Well, I still typically have trouble calling myself an artist. But the thing is, like I mentioned at the beginning, I kind of always needed to infuse my work in the companies I was working for with certain I don't know how to call it, maybe creativity, or sometimes I would call it bizarreness, or sometimes I would call it I don't know, something where I was trying to do things differently, and I was trying to create something visual. I was trying to create some work that would talk to you on an emotional level. So I don't know. We were actually discussing the idea, Iskra and I, of this studio where, like I said also earlier, we would try to make some kind of corporate digital strategy where we would try to convince big corporations that art has a role in that, and we do believe so, and maybe that is somewhere along the road. But somehow at some point I said, maybe I'm trying to do all this, maybe I'm trying to push for this idea because I really want to make art. I mean, and I'm trying to find an excuse to make art in a corporate setting somehow. And then we said, well, maybe we can, we can be artists, but maybe we can also open up a physical gallery for art. And then that also has like this component of a company, because if it's a gallery, I mean, if you're trying to create some other activity besides pure creation, then it's a company. And then in that conversation, I said, you know what, maybe I don't even need to create this space of creating services for third parties and so on, because that is creating a company. Maybe I just need to create art. Maybe I am an artist. And we were having a glass of wine, which might also have had something to do with it. But I kind of decided that I could do that. And to be honest, in the moment that I said, maybe I'm an artist, or maybe I can call myself an artist, or maybe I just want to do that, it felt very much liberating, and it kind of put a lot of my past in a new perspective. I mean, I kind of understood some of the things that I had been doing, and well, I still have trouble, like I said, calling myself an artist. I don't know, maybe it is too pretentious, because when I think of artists, I think of the artists that move me from the past. I think of well, the greatest artists that move me. I think of Johann Sebastian Bach, and I mean, music is very important to me and moves me a lot. I think of that. I think of certain painters, and I say, well, they were artists. What am I? But you know, maybe I don't want this to become my therapist session, so I will just end the comment there. But yeah, it had profound effect on me, and I will tell you how profound in a year or two.
Yeah, I just want to be so brave here. I think we still have problems by calling ourselves artists. Like actually, when I started the presentation, I said I used to like to define myself like a combination of things, because it's really hard to me to say that, because as Marcelo, I really admire many artists, and it's hard to me to say that. And now it's like a hype, and we see a lot of art in the media and artists and so on. But when we decided to say that, it was like 2 years ago, and I remember exactly the time that I decided to do my project, and I named the project like a design company. And when I shared this idea with a friend of mine who is actually an artist, and I think he's an artist, and he told me, I think this is art, this is not design. And I was like, come on, how? I'm a designer, not an artist. And then I came here and I told Marcelo, and Marcelo told me, but maybe he was right. So we actually spent from this day like 1.5 years telling to ourselves that, yeah, we can do it, and fighting with a lot of people like that. Now you're an artist, ha ha ha. But I think you have to try yourself and just go and be sure with what you do, and that's all.
Yeah.
So Gabriel, yeah.
So next one could be
With your experience.
with your experiences on generative art, coding, and data visualization, can you talk more about the topic of the similarities of the computer mind and the human mind and the intersection about these two, or are they the same?
I love this question.
Me too.
So
Can we talk for like 5 hours?
No, I don't want to make you like. So just okay. So if
we are fine with
yeah,
talking.
we are fine. So if you want, we can just finish the questions and then. So yeah. Well, this is a very long, and really, I don't want to be so long with the answer. But I'm. This is like my main topic, and I really love to think about this. I think, yeah, in this the way you put it, I would say maybe they are the same. Telling that in a very very short way, I feel like it's kind of about life. You mentioned human mind, and this is so big. I understand life like a kind of a video game, and we just have to get over different things and to discover things. First we discover the wheel, then the fire, or I don't know if the order is the right one, but we are discovering things. Then we watch the birds, and we design planes to fly. So we are just trying to get over and over our own capacities. And I think now we are in a very interesting time, because pushing this technology forward is so connected with our mind. Because if we think of a system of AI, it's all about actually finding new distances. And like, I don't know, you can recommend stuff, you can train a model to create new images, and the machine will create this new image by finding something close to the one you put. So everything is by connecting things. So if we improve this knowledge in tech, it's not like we are creating something new. I think if really it's the same as I really think, maybe this progress would also make us to understand better our way of thinking. And this is, I think, the main, huge, and the only question we have as humans, right? So if really there is a parallelism between both, and we really get deep into this, we can maybe try to understand better the way we connect things or memories or feelings. And yeah, I think this is the most exciting part.
Yeah, to me, there is for sure there are similarities between the computer mind and the human mind. First of all, because the computer mind has been built by a human mind so far. There is no computer that we know of that has been built by some other kind of entity. So far, all the ideas about how a computer mind should work come from a human mind, and human minds tend to build things in the way that they understand the world, and we kind of have a short understanding of how the human mind works, but it's something. And for example, neural networks and all this revolution that we have nowadays with the GANs comes basically from building architectures that kind of process information in a way that is that resembles the human mind. But to me, there is a very interesting difference so far that will at some point maybe solved, or I don't know. To me, they are similar in the sense that they can process information, have an output, given an input. I mean, have a response to some kind of input. They are in different classes, though, because of two things. To me, the main difference is there is still no machine mind, no computer mind that has an intention. Computer minds so far only respond to instructions that we give the machine to do. And then with the GANs, with the advent of GANs, which are of course things that are modeled after human brain, we start getting answers, let's say from the machine, or behaviors from the machine that we did not expect. But the machine does not take action on its own. The machine does not say, oh, I'm going to paint a painting that resembles Van Gogh just because I like it, or just because I want to do it now. It does so because we execute a command and we tell the machine, can you please do this? So to me, this is a very important difference that maybe some point maybe at some point in the future will no longer be, because maybe at some point machines will do have an intention. Maybe they will have their own free will. Having your own free will is something that sometimes we can doubt that some humans even have, but at least we can imagine that most have these. Then the other related to that, like I also said at the beginning, computer minds, sorry, don't have or what we understand as emotions. At some point, my thesis is that they will have their own emotions as their processing of whatever is around is more complex. They will be able to experience certain states of this computer mind that resemble what in our mind are emotions. In their minds, I don't know what there will be. The thing is, there will always be similarities to me, even when they do have. I mean, there will be similarities, but there will always be differences. They will never be the same thing, even when machines have an intention, because machines have a different set of inputs. They don't have a body. They don't have a body like ours. They don't have the same sense of touch, of smell, of sight, of hearing. So the inputs that they have to work with, the emotions that might arise from that, the consciousness that might arise from that, to me, theoretically, is necessarily different from that of the human mind. But maybe I'm talking about things that you were not asking about. So that's why this is a really interesting topic for me. And I mean, I whenever I can, I try to write an article about that. But I don't know, I'm always learning about this, and it's a really exciting topic. But yeah, thanks for the question.
Thanks for the great answer. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Just let me know if we missed something. I think the last one is the PFP project from FACMI, but let me know if we have another one. Can you okay.
There was this question from Nat L about recommending tools to try generative art based on your own images and words. Here, I don't know. I would probably say that there are some Google Colab notebooks that you can easily use that use GANs and the clip model, where you can, for example, write some text. You launch it. It's free to use with limited resources. It's free to use, and then you can start trying out things like, oh, I'm going to enter this bizarre phrase and see what image the computer comes up with, or you can use some images and then this will be trained. I don't have a direct link now, but I will look for it, and I can try to post it here later, or I can send it to Nicole so she can share it around. I don't want to keep you waiting now for me to look for the links, but I will certainly share them later.
Yeah, I was answering these questions. If you can go with the other one.
Okay. So yeah, so Gabriel, you said also, can you send the links of the artists that you mentioned? Now I don't know exactly what was this question referring to. So if you could maybe.
I put Gambro.
Oh, okay. Okay. Good. Sorry. Yeah, so Stefan also is suggesting Runway ML. Exactly. Very good suggestion. Thanks a lot, Stefan. I think that's also good to play with. Good. I see that you guys have a better idea of certain tools than I have. So thanks. I will also keep some of these links for me. All right. So then Fahmi, hello Fahmi. Hi Iskra and Marcelo. How about your opinion about PFP projects? You have planned to do something like that with a generative approach? Well, I have. The truth is, I don't have a very well-formed opinion about PFP projects. The truth is that most of the PFP projects that I see seem to be, in my opinion, trying to capitalize on the success of the previous ones. So most of them, it's kind of a Me Too thing. Oh, there's money in this, I'm going to jump in, which I think it's totally fine. Don't get me wrong, but I'm trying to think about it from the standpoint of art, or I don't know. So let's say that the original CryptoPunks I thought they were nice somehow. I must admit that when I came to know them, I thought, what? But then I don't know, I like the style and I like the pixelated thing. I mean, I am pre-80s, so I kind of love that style a lot. But then, like I said, most PFP projects to me don't really seem to bring much in terms of art or innovation. Like this latest John Random Skeles, I thought that was amazing for the technicalities of it, and also because I find the character funny and the situations hilarious sometimes. But that's mostly it. I mean, most other projects I don't really like very much. I mean, I just don't bother spending too much time with them. About having a plan to doing something like that with a generative approach. Well, sometimes, let's say that the idea crosses the mind. And actually, right now we're talking to some people who had an idea not to build a PFP project per se, but it's maybe something a little bit similar, which would be creating a generative system that would output one output per person, let's say, as the image of a certain badge for a certain thing. I mean, I don't know how much of that is public or not, but it wouldn't be in any case a PFP per se. So I don't know. To me, at least, it's not something in the cards immediately. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's not definitely on the road, but I don't know. Maybe next week you see I am in some project in in this, but now it's not something that I'm interested in. For me, many of them aesthetically, I don't like them. But I think there is something intentionally on the way they are built that it's not that they are trying to say this is something different, and I think there is, in my case, sometimes something that I really feel that I don't really understand what's going on there, because I think, oh, this is like so easy to do, but there is something behind that. So I try to consider this project like a cultural icon of now of our time. So you like it or not, you maybe you think that it's very easy to do or it's not art or whatever. I think it's just something that it has born now, and I don't know, I think maybe we will understand the meaning of all that passing some months or years. And yeah, this is like, I don't have a clear opinion. I think I don't like them, most of them. Someone I like, but I think there is something on really the culture we're building today. So I think they're definitely a thing. And I think that's all. Or let us know, please, if we miss some question. Gracias a vosotros. Yeah, I think it's kind of late, but really, if you want to say something, we are here, and if not, we can close that. But we are open if you want to say something. Okay, so I think that's all. Thank you very much to all of you, and I think it is very interesting. I think we are also happy to can talk about these things. It's not usual in the real life. So thank you, and see you on Twitter or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, everyone. I don't know. It's great to see so many known names here, and I don't know. I hope that someday I can be asking questions to you soon. And in the meantime, any further thing, please feel free, like Iskra says, to reach out on Twitter or in any other means of communication. Thanks a lot, and
Okay, great, guys.
Have a good day and have a good residence.
Yeah, enjoy.